Good morning, students. Today we will start our next lesson, that is the age of the Guptas, in which we will see the North India at the time of Gupta rulers. In this lesson, we will see about the sources at first. There are two sources of history are available. First is literary source, another one is archaeological source. In literary sources, we will study the accounts of Fahin. The period about 2 centuries from early 4th century AD, that is known as the imperial age of the Guptas. Between that 2 centuries, various types of development and progress was done by the Guptas. That's why that was called as per the golden age of Indian history. Whenever Fahin was the earliest Chinese pilgrim. Pilgrim means the person who is coming or who is going to any other country in search of the religious purposes. So he was the first Chinese pilgrim who visited to India on a religious mission during the reign of Chandragupta II. Chandragupta II is also called as Vikramaditya. During his stay in India, he went on pilgrimage to Mathura, and he wanted to get more and more ideas about Buddhism. That's why at first he visited to Mathura, Kanauj, Kapilvastu, Kushinagar, Vaishali, Patliputra, Kashi, and Rajgriha, and made careful observations about the conditions at that time without resorting to any bias. Means without any interference, he visited to all the places wherever he was getting idea about the Buddhism. According to Fahin, Magad was a prosperous country with large towns. Various towns were there, and teeming with wealthy population. All the peoples were in a rich condition. Patliputra was a flourishing city with numerous charitable institutions. Patliputra was the city, flourishing city means progressing city, which had all the types of institutions, including hospitals endowed by benevolent citizens. Means what? Those who were caring about the health, they had developed hospitals there. Although the people were wealthy, they led simple lives, generally observing the Buddhist rules of conduct. All the people at the time of Guptas were following the Buddhism. That's why they were spending their life in a simple way. After that, they were the rich peoples, or they were having a wealth. Vaishnavism, Shaivism, Buddhism, and Jainism, that were the four religions at the time of Guptas. People were, however, had no ill will towards other sections. Means what? They were respecting all the religion, all the religious people at that time. Hindu gods and goddesses were depicted on coins and also in sculptures and paintings. Everywhere, wherever the sculptures and paintings were done, on that images, the Hindu gods and goddesses were carved. The penal code was mild and offences were ordinarily punished by fines only. Penal code means the punishments or the penalty were there at the time of Guptas. It was mild, not too much severe. From these all accounts which was mentioned by Fahin, by that we can be inferred that the Gupta Empire was prosperous and governed on enlightened principles. Means by that we are realizing, or by that we are getting idea about the Fahin's work, of what he observed in India at the time of Guptas. Now we have to see about the Allahabad pillar inscription, that is called as per the Prayag Prashasti also. It is one of the important epigraphic evidences of the imperial Guptas, means whenever Guptas were ruling at that time, their rule is mentioned by that Allahabad pillar inscription. It is composed by Hari Sen, the court poet of Samudragupta. Allahabad pillar inscription, also known as Prayag Prashasti, it is written in praise of Samudragupta. Whenever most powerful of the Gupta, he was arguably the most powerful of the Gupta rulers, is known as Samudragupta. It describes the reign of Guptas in ancient India. What Prayag Prashasti is describing the more and more ideas about the ancient India at the time of Guptas. It providing also the impressive list of kings and tribal republics that were conquered by Samudragupta. The inscription is also important because of the political geography of India, because what it is situated at Allahabad, which is having the geographical importance. The inscription is also important because the political geography of India, that it indicates by naming the different kings and peoples who populated India in the first half of the 4th century, who defeated or who were guided by Samudragupta. They were from various places. Their names are mentioned. That's why it is having geographical importance. Now we have to see the reign or the region of Gupta period, or the timing whenever the Guptas were ruling. The history of the first two rulers of Gupta dynasty, that is Sri Gupta and his son Ghatotkacha, that is obscure, means it is believed that the Gupta era originated with reign of Chandragupta first. It is called as, or it is known as, the whenever Chandragupta first started ruling, from that the Gupta ruling is started or counted. Chandragupta first was the first independent king with the title of Maharajadiraj, or the king of kings. Maharajadiraj means who is the king of kings. After declaring his independence in Magad, Chandragupta extended his empire through matrimonial alliance. Chandragupta first also did matrimonial alliance by marrying a Lichavi princess Kumar Devi. At first he did matrimonial alliance by which he married to Lichavi princess Kumar Devi. Then Samudragupta, we have to study about Samudragupta. He was the son of Chandragupta first. Much of the information about him is obtained from Allahabad pillar inscription composed by his court poet Hari Sen. Whatever work was done by Samudragupta, that is written in the Allahabad pillar inscription by his court poet Hari Sen. He was a great conqueror and able statesman, as well as a patron of arts, means he was the lover of arts. Even his various images we can find on the coins, when the coins of Guptas. Samudragupta's empire extended from Brahmaputra in the east to rivers Yamuna and Chambal in the west, from Himalayas in the north and Narmada in the south. That was the extension of Samudragupta's empire. It is because of his bravery and generalship that he is known as the Napoleon of India. Just because of his work, he is known as the Napoleon of India. He further extended his empire up to the Chambal river by defeating the Naga kings of Mathura, Gwalior and Ahichatra. Like Alexander, he was daring. He was also daring, and his aim was to capture the whole India, or rule on the whole India. During his famous Deccan campaign, he covered more than 3,000 miles through dense forest. Means he covered 3,000 miles by the dense forest routes. Though he defeated many powerful rulers, he did not annex southern territories. He defeated the various rulers, but he could not capture the South India, the southern part of India. but afterwards he captured the southern part also, and he guided the kings there to accept the Gupta rule in southern part of India. The Allahabad pillar inscription of Samudragupta describes four different kinds of rulers and tell us about Samudragupta's policies towards them. That four types of rulers we are going to see. At first, the 9 rulers of Aryavarta were uprooted. Aryavarta's 9 rulers were uprooted and their kingdoms were made a part of Samudragupta's empire, and afterwards their part was attached to Samudragupta's empire. The 12 rulers of Dakshinpat, that is called as South India, the 12 rulers from Dakshinpat who also surrendered to Samudragupta after being defeated. They were also defeated by Samudragupta and they followed the rule of Samudragupta in their empire, and they were liberated and allowed to rule again over their kingdom. They got permission to rule again on their kingdom, but under the observation of whom? Samudragupta. The inner circle of neighboring states including Assam, coastal Bengal, Nepal and a number of Ganasanghas, they were called as organization of many kings. In the northwest, spread tribute, followed his orders and attended his court. Means all the rulers, those who were defeated by him, they were free to rule on their empire again, but they have to follow the orders of Samudragupta. That was the condition. According to Samudragupta's court, poet Harisen, Samudragupta performed an Ashwamedh Yagya or horse sacrifice by which not any king could defeat him. But Samudragupta not was only a brave warrior and conqueror but also a great ruler also, a musician and poet also. In one of his coins, he is shown playing the veena. Samudragupta issued 8 types of coins made of gold. His court was full of great scholars and literary persons. Samudragupta was a follower of Brahmanism and worshipped Lord Vishnu. He also had faith in Vedic sacrifices, but he was tolerant towards other religions. Means although he was the worshipper of Brahmanism, but after that he was respecting all the religions. At the same time, he was a brave ruler. Although he was a brave ruler, but he was a musician and poet also. He was caring about all his peoples. Students, we will stop here, and remaining content we are going to complete tomorrow.